Good afternoon, my name's Craig Mathieson. I'm the founder of the Polar Academy and also one of the explorers in residence for the Royal Scottish Geographical Society. I hope you're all well in this current climate and staying safe. I've been asked to put together a small talk, about 20-25 minutes, on what I do in the Polar Academy. To be honest with you, I think I've got the best job in the world. And for anyone who still doesn't know what the Polar Academy is, it's something I started over 6 years ago now, and I've been supported by the Royal Scottish Geographical Society since day one. It's a charity that looks after children who are essentially struggling in life. Kids that have lost their confidence, have lost any belief that they can achieve anything significant in life. And unfortunately, these are the type of kids who get picked on at school. These are the victims of bullying. And they're also the kids that we read about every day suffering from mental health challenges, where there isn't a lot of support out there to help them. So a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, back in 2006, I done an expedition to the North Pole to actually prove a point that teenagers can actually do amazing things if they're given the opportunity and if someone believes in them. So I took a young guy from near Falkirk and we skied to the geographic North Pole. And his name was Chris Struthers. A fantastic young lad. So I've got a little bit of footage from Chris and why we done it.
I got the brief to take one kid from Scotland, and I said, well, we'll take them to the North Pole, the geographic pole. We'll make something that most people think's impossible, and we'll train someone. There was lots of people apply for it. Kids from like Milngavie and Bearsden who go to Val d'Isère 4 times a year with their parents, fantastic skiers, hope to ski for Scotland one day. They were motivated enough. I thought they're going to be okay in life. I wanted someone at the opposite end of the spectrum. And I met young Chris. He goes to school, or went to school near Falkirk, and a good lad, but a shyer boy you could not get. He just never spoke. Zero confidence, I would say, at the beginning, and he definitely thought that he couldn't do something like this.
There were times when I was at school where I would have very little interaction with teachers, and I felt as if Craig hadn't stepped in and helped me on my way to something that I never knew I would be able to achieve, then that would have continued on. There were times at school where I did feel quite alone.
We just came to an arrangement that I would train him, invest a lot of time and effort, and we'd ski to the North Pole. We'd go out to places like this, drag tyres for an hour or two and just build up and build up. He got very good very quickly, and his confidence started to rise. And over the weeks of doing this, we built up, and then I took him up to Greenland, my training grounds up there, where he's skiing on the sea ice, and we taught him everything: how to ski, how to eat, how to dress, everything.
Until I actually got to the pole itself, I was continually doubting myself. Even once I reached Greenland and we were in the throes of the training, I still thought something would happen. I wouldn't be able to pull it off myself. I would let someone down. I would contribute to the breakup of the team in some way. I was pretty paranoid throughout the whole training process, really.
We used the Russians to drop us off in the Arctic Ocean to ski to the North Pole, and then everything just came in. All of the training kicked in. He knew what to do. And to cut a very long story short, I mean, we skied to the North Pole. Christopher instantly changed the day we got to the pole. It was worth every footstep just to see his face that day.
Now, after that expedition, Chris went on to achieve amazing things with his life. And since then, he's kind of moved out of Falkirk, spends a lot of time in Japan and New Zealand, and is really doing amazing things with his life. But after that expedition, I still went out to schools and spoke to pupils, and I would see this particular group, these invisible kids, look back at me every time I spoke. I thought, I want to do something bigger and better and for more people. So that's when the Polar Academy really kicked off. I mean, at the time I was working for an accountancy firm, really not enjoying it at all. And I gave up everything. I just quit one day. Had no savings, had nothing. Hindsight, should have told my wife this first before I done it, but you learn. And it's been the best move we've ever done. So I set up the charity, and I wanted to write a programme that was very different to anything else out there. I mean, we've been dubbed now the toughest youth programme in Europe, something that I'm kind of proud about. So I know we're doing something right. But essentially how it works is a school applies to me if they want to do the Polar Academy. We then go into the school and we interview the head teacher and the leadership team. And we don't sell the Polar Academy to them. They've got to prove to us, they've got an hour to do it, to prove to us that they've got the leadership qualities and the skills to support their own pupils. Now, this might sound straightforward, but I would say over half the schools fail. There's a huge difference I see in teachers across this country. I mean, I've met some amazing teachers, true leaders who the kids really look up to. And that's the ones that we go with. If I point out a window and say to the head teacher, tell me about that kid, and they immediately spark up and tell me their history and about the parents and stuff, that's fantastic. There's other times that head teachers haven't a clue about any of the kids in the school. They don't leave the room. So finding the right school is important. Finding the kids is relatively simple. I speak to them all in big assemblies and ask them to put their name forward if they're interested. After that, I have to work with the school. It usually takes a couple of months, and we actually whittle down to a group of about 50. And it's not the 50 best. It's the 50 who we think at the end of the day would benefit most from it. And once we've got 50, invite all the parents in to speak to them and tell them exactly what's expected of them. After that, we then have to cut it down to 20. And once we've got 20, we go on our selection programme. And selection is 48 hours up at the Glenmore Lodge up near Aviemore. I'm sure most of the viewers have been there at some point. And the kids and a parent, it's really important to involve the parents in all this. They're part of the team. They attend for 40 hours and go through a series of challenges. I always stress to them that it's not a physical test. At this stage, we know everyone's unfit, but we can sort that. That's an easy fix. What I'm looking for is just that spark. A spark that I know they'll go on to achieve stuff. I don't tell them much about the weekend before we go up there. It's fairly secret. But the type of things that happen is they do, well, the first test that they do is an underwater test where they have to tie knots while they're upside down underwater. I then get the parents to do it after the kids have done it. Then we do abseiling, canoeing, lots and lots of different things, and just push them a wee bit hard. We do a hill walk, which also involves a wee bit of running. And again, I'm not looking for fitness. I'm looking for the ones who help others. I'm looking for the ones who say please and thank you. if we ask them to do stuff. The ones who tidy away their plate. Small things that I know that work brilliantly in a team. The last thing they've got to do is give a presentation. And that's a really important thing where we learn more about themselves and why they're there. So I've got another little video clip for you. This is a video clip of them actually doing the water test. And I think this is young Kimberly who's having a go at it. And she was petrified before, but she managed to do it brilliantly. Absolutely brilliantly. And you've got to remember, these kids haven't done anything like this before. And at the end of the weekend, what it actually does is amazing, because it proves to the kid how incredible their own parents are, because they see their parents trying stuff that they've never dreamed that they could do. It also proves to the parent how incredible their own child is and the potential they have to go on and do further things. That's what selection's about. It's not about fitness. It's not about seeing who's best. Because at the end of the day, I choose the 10 kids who would benefit the most by it. And that's a very different team to the 10 best. Now, once selection's done and we've got the team, the 20 who went through for selection, we still keep. We have two teams. We have the expedition team and we have the leadership team. And the leadership team's the kids who are essentially on standby if anything happens to the expedition team. So they all train together as a single team over the coming months. Now, this is where training is really important. We start off small, start off with basics, little bits of physical education, and build up and keep building week on week on week. And we do things like insanity training, which is exactly how it sounds. It's a really powerful cardio program, and we do the most extreme version of it, and we actually build up where we do double the recommended sort of dosage of it. And these kids absolutely smash it. They're absolutely brilliant with it. They struggle at first, just like anyone would. But what I tend to find, the more we do, the more they want to do. And once they start to see the change in themselves, the fact they are getting fitter, and once the parents as well start to see their kids getting fitter, it's remarkable, because they do far more than ask them to do. We also mix that with sort of old style expedition training, dragging tyres. Dragging tyres is the best form of training you can do if you're going on a polar expedition hauling sleds. So we're out in all weathers. We usually train up around the Trossachs. So if you come around there in the winter time, you'll see us through rain, wind, snow, dragging these tyres. And near the end of the training, we do a final weekend up at St Andrews at the West Sands. And that's always a fantastic day. It's essentially the last day of training, where we haul tyres up and down in the sand for a few hours, then actually drag them through the water. What the clip doesn't show is once they've finished hauling through the water, they actually drag the tyres back to my big truck, load the tyres back in the truck, then drag the truck over the grass car park at St Andrews. Only when they've done that have they finished that fitness test. No kid has ever failed. By that point, they are super fit, ready to go and motivated to do this expedition. Now, in addition to all the physical skills that these kids learn, they also learn everything that they need to know about expedition life out in the ice. So they're learning things, how to work the stoves, work the tents. We teach them navigation. They actually get a navigation qualification before they go up. Because an important aspect of this is that the kids have to lead their own expedition. It's not us as guides leading them. They've learned nothing from that. They have to do everything themselves. So they decide where we go. They decide where we camp. It's up to them. Every day I make a new leader of the team, and they have to make every decision. And again, this is great to see because they really rise to the challenge. You might have someone that I met a year ago that wouldn't say boo to a goose, wouldn't make eye contact with me. And all of a sudden they're leading a a polar expedition team across the ice. So the route that we generally go is we fly into eastern Greenland, fly into a little town called Tasselak, and we head out from there. The first place we have to go is across the sea, which is obviously frozen. Then we navigate ourselves through the mountains. But once we're over the sea, it's really up to the kids where we go. If they fancy visiting a mountain they're seeing the horizon, that's where we go. We just make sure it's done safely and correctly. So I've got an wee clip now of the first day, the end of the first day after the Bathgate team, which was the last team I took up there last year, and just how they coped after day one. They would never get an opportunity like this, ever. And the wildest dreams that it wouldn't enter their head. So when someone comes up and says, right, there's an opportunity to go to the Arctic, fend for yourself, you're going to be in a really hostile environment, but I promise you it will change your life. Now, I'm sure many of the members who listen to this have actually been to Greenland and therefore know how incredible a country that it is. I've been going there for more than 20 years now and fell in love with it the first minute I ever went across there. I don't know if it's a combination for me of the people, the culture, the scenery, the environment, but it feels magical to me. And I can never come back from an expedition to Greenland without feeling totally enthused and wanting to immediately go back there again. Now, the effect it has on these kids is quite profound, because obviously they've never seen anything like this before. They've never crossed sea ice, they've never seen hanging glaciers, they've never seen the northern lights, they've never experienced cold temperatures like this. They've certainly never seen the type of scenery that's up there in East Greenland. And it's great because they tend to spend the first couple of days skiing with their jaws dropped. They can't believe what they're seeing. But once it kicks in, it's just incredible. And I've got a tiny bit of footage here of a couple of the girls speaking about the day that we got to the top of a mountain, and we had a fantastic vista to the south of us over the sea and the route that we came from. And also, if we turn west, we could see the Greenland ice cap. And it is a very special place. In fact, it's the first time ever a Polar Academy team got up that far. They've done incredibly well. And there's also a little bit of footage from the teacher that we took, because we always take a teacher from the school. I feel that that's important. His name is Ellis, and he was just incredible. Really kind man. Great in the team. Yeah, so you can hear from him and also hear from my main guide, Nigel Williams, who's again been with me since day one of the Polar Academy.
It's quite hard to put into words because you feel like a bit emotional thinking about it, like how hard everyone's and how far everyone's come so far.
You just feel like crying.
It still doesn't feel real.
It's absolutely phenomenal. I won't get another opportunity like this, so yeah, it's kind of difficult to put into words.
And there's a sense of feeling of the world's all good, the world's at peace, it's calming. This sort of environment is just magical.
Well, after that, the weather continued to be really quite nice for that time of year up in Greenland. But after a few days, we could see that there was a huge area of low pressure building up over the ice cap, right almost from south to the north end of the ice cap. And what it would bring is high winds and warmer temperatures. Now, I've been seeing this over the past few years that I've been going up there, that spring is coming earlier and earlier every year. Of course, you know, this is no surprise. it is down to climate change, but it does affect us. So we have to go in earlier and earlier every year. But last year was particularly bad, and the temperatures at one point rose to +4 degrees, and we had rain and we had wind, and it gets to a point that you've got to make some tough decisions, and with the Bathgate team, there's no exception there. I had to make the decision to actually halt the expedition a couple of days early because a big storm was coming in. When we were skiing back, actually, over the sea ice, our skis were underwater. It rained that much on top of the sea ice that we were skiing through water. So it was a bit grim, but I need to point out that the kids were all amazing. They'd see it as part of the expedition, which it was. As you know, of your own expedition, decisions have to be made quickly as well to keep everyone safe, and we made the safest decisions that we had to make. We got the kids back. Now, if anyone watched the TV programme Arctic Academy, but if you watch the programme, you would imagine once we got back to Tasselak, that was the expedition over. But it's far from it, because we were still there for a good few days. All we done was do things differently. So instead of skiing to the mountains to the north, we actually went out climbing to the mountains to the south. So we're out every day with the kids doing something. Plus, it gave us a fantastic opportunity to actually integrate these kids with local Greenlandic kids, which is great. And that's another project that we've started in recent years. We've actually started exchange programs with kids, teenagers from Greenland, who essentially have the same issues as our kids here in Scotland. And we bring them over to Scotland. We show them the sites that they want to see. Last year was great. The number one thing that the kids from Tasselak wanted to see was a forest, to walk amongst trees, walk on grass, that kind of stuff. It was great. It worked really well, and going forward we're going to work with the local community as well to do more and more of that. But for this particular team, the Bathgate team, we cracked on. We've done lots of stuff. And at the end of it, it was a really fulfilling expedition. But for me, it's seeing the change in these kids. Going from these shy, awkward, embarrassed to talk teenagers who are really quite broken. I mean, we had a lot of broken kids. Again, if you watch the documentary, it sort of hints on a few things, but I can tell you, I mean, some of these kids were going through a real tough time. We actually had 3 kids that had suicidal thoughts before we met them. It was that bad through bullying and not being able to get the help that they needed. That's all changed now, thankfully. But a lot of these kids have the demons in their head that they've got to get rid of. So that's what makes me really proud, is to see the change in these kids, but also to see the change in their families as well. How proud these parents are of these kids. Now, you've got to remember, the Polar Academy isn't just about training kids up who are struggling a wee bit and taking them to the Arctic to do an expedition. To be honest, that's a small part of what we do. The biggest part is the influence that these kids have on their peers when they get home. Because I don't charge money to these kids or their parents to do this. It's free. The reason I look tired all the time is that I do the fundraising for it as well, which is really hard. I mean, it gets harder and harder every year, but we always manage. We always get there, by hook or by crook. But there is a huge payback with these kids. And the fact is that every kid who goes, when they get home, must speak to and inspire at least 3,000 other teenagers to go out and do something with their life. Now that sounds a large number. 10 kids get to go, 30,000 get to benefit. We've always exceeded that target. Once these kids start to talk, I mean, they go into schools and give assemblies and all this kind of stuff. That's how it starts, but they never stop. And people like you saw little Kim in this presentation, who was crushed by shyness. I mean, she's filled assembly rooms in Edinburgh. She spoke to businesses as a keynote speaker. Just incredible. I mean, I've got kids from the first year of Polar Academy 6 years ago, still giving talks about the difference it's made to them and their families. And this positive attitude that they've now got to go out and do things, not be dragged down through social media or all the other horrible things out there that drag kids down. Every kid has got an achievement in their head, a goal. All we do is just open up the possibilities with them that they can go out and do this. And the great thing is they all do. They all achieve after this. And it's not down to any secret formula or anything like that. It's down to common sense. We believe in them. We believe these children are incredible and can achieve incredible things with their life. And we prove it to them. But they do all the work. They do everything. That's what makes it so special. So I'm going to show you a little video clip of making the decision to leave the expedition last year. And you can see a bit the weather was a bit grim.
Craig is left with no choice.
The weather, as you know, is turned. There's a big, huge low sitting right across us, and it's huge. It's not budging. The winds are going to get stronger. The rain's going to get heavier. The winds are forecast up to 55 miles an hour now. So I made the decision to go back to Tassalac. We'll get ourselves sorted out and we'll do stuff in Tassalac, but we won't risk staying here another day. The fjord can fill up with water. It's going to be grim, so if anything did happen, it'd be 100-fold more hassle for us to fix it. Yeah, it's not far at all, but it's going to be really soggy skiing. The main plan today is get out of here. Okay? Yeah. Everyone happy? Yeah.
If the snow melts, they will be trapped. The decision is to abandon the expedition and head for the safety of the nearest settlement, while they still can.
I'll leave you with some photographs of the Bathgate team and how incredible they are. Now, going forward with the Polar Academy, I've decided to double our outputs. From now on, I'll be taking 2 teams up every year. So I want to have an output benefit of 60,000 children per year. We will do this. We just need help. That's all we need. So if anyone out there wants to help the Polar Academy, we're always looking for fundraisers, volunteers. It'd be great. It'd be absolutely great, because the more we can do this, the more I know kids will benefit and inspire each other. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this.